In this video, I'll be showing you the differences between the STAAD Pro's latest version, which is called the STAAD Pro Connect edition, and I'll be comparing it with STAAD Pro's older version, which was called STAAD Pro V8i. So I'll be putting them head to head, and let's see who wins. Well, of course, we know who wins, but we'll do it anyways. So without any further ado, let's jump into the topic. Hello and welcome back to Civil Black Box. I'm Kushal, and if you're new to this channel, please do consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Also, if by the end of this video or during the video you get some value out of it, please do not forget to hit that like button. It really helps with the motivation as well as the YouTube algorithm. Since this video is going to be a bit on the longer side, I have timestamps down in the description below. So if you are an avid user of STAAD Pro Connect edition and you might know a few things ahead of time, feel free to skip around. However, there are going to be things which you might have not seen. I found them very late, so I'm hoping that they might be of value to you. So stick around to the end of this video. Finally, the differences which I'm going to be showing you is with the perspective of a reinforced concrete structure designer and not with respect to STAAD Pro as a whole. I'm limiting it to the RC design, that is reinforced concrete design only. And if you are a person who uses STAAD Pro Connect edition for a different purpose, or if you do find some other differences, please do not forget to hit me up in the comments. Now, this comparison will be broken down into 4 key areas. We'll be talking about the differences with respect to the graphical user interface, the whole design philosophy in general of the two softwares. We'll also be talking about how usable each of them is, what are the quick ways of accessing different options in each of the software. We'll be talking about what are the different modules which have been added in STAAD Pro Connect edition, which makes our life so much easier. And finally, we'll be talking about the functionality aspects which have been upgraded in STAAD Pro Connect edition, which really takes this miles ahead of the V8i version. So as I said, STAAD Pro Connect is going to win, but let's see how far it has gotten. So let's kick things off with the graphical user interface. Now, inside the graphical user interface, we'll again be talking about the whole interface with respect to 3 parameters. We'll be talking about the design principle first. We'll be talking about what are the newer updates in the graphical user interface. And we'll be talking about how to work with your STAAD projects and what has changed thereof. So let's start off with the design philosophy or the design principle that has changed. So right now I'm at the STAAD Pro V8i version. I have both the softwares open. So I'll be simultaneously showing you both the software so that you can better visualize what is the difference. Now, as I said, the design philosophy has changed a lot. This is the older version of STAAD Pro, and if I were to take you to the newer version, you can see the design aesthetic change. Now, this is more of a traditional design, which we are used to seeing in softwares like Microsoft Excel, AutoCAD, and so on. We have a menu bar, we have different options to look at. And by the way, we'll go through each of the options one by one. For now, just go through the overarching principles as to what is going on. Now, if I go inside the structure, or if you go inside the modeling part in both of the softwares, you can see this was the older version of STAAD Pro, that is the V8i version. And you can see right here, we have so many icons which have different purpose. Now, we do have a menu, but this seems to be an outdated menu now that we have a newer software. So this was in fact an outdated version of the software design philosophy. So you can see it has changed a lot. Now what we are inside is what is now a traditional way of looking at software. So you can see this design philosophy in Microsoft softwares as well. So if we were to look at this interface right now, it is simply broken down into a few things. So on the top, you can see we have a menu bar right here. Under that, we have a ribbon. And then under it, we have the whole display area. On the top of everything, we have what is called a quick access menu right at the top. This design philosophy is used by different softwares right now. So if I were to take you to Excel, you can see the same thing going on. We have a menu bar at the top, or rather a quick access menu at the top. Then we have the menu bar. Then we have this ribbon area, which is dependent upon whichever menu item you have clicked. And finally, we have the whole display area where everything goes. So this is the same design philosophy. Quick access menu, menu bar, which have different menu options. And this ribbon will change depending upon the menu option you are at. And finally, we have the data area. Now this data area inside STAAD is further broken down into a few things. On the top, we have this workflow. Then we have this data area or the graphical output, whatever you is going to be seeing as your model. And then we have this data area on the right. So whatever option you are on will be associated with a specific data area. Now we do have one more option right here called the workflow, but we'll have a look at it. If I were to go back to STAAD Pro V8i, you can see the design philosophy is a lot different. The options right here do not change. So this menu bar or this ribbon does not change at all. This menu bar on the left or the icons on the left also do not change. The only thing that changes is this area again, which is again divided into two parts. We have the graphical area or the graphical output area, and then we have the data area. So this entire philosophy has now changed. So instead of memorizing which icon is which or going through each menu item and finding it, now it's much easier. If I want to do anything with the view command, I can simply head over to this view icon and do everything there. If I want to select any object, I can just simply jump to the select object and find everything there. For the loading, I'll jump into the loading tab and so on and so forth. So that's all about the design philosophy. Now, how everything in STAAD Pro Connect looks fresh, it looks updated, it looks new. So V8i, 0 points, STAAD Pro Connect Edition, 1 point. Let's talk about the next thing inside the graphical user interface, which is going to be the different updates in the user interface. Now, we've already seen the menu icon and so on. Let's talk about theme in general. Now, originally, there did not used to be a theme. So if I were to go back to the original window where we get to set up our project, and if I were to go inside configure, and if I go inside this general option and move all the way down, you can see we have a new option called theme. This is where you can change the look and feel of your STAAD Pro software. So you can customize it to your desire. Now, of course, there are not many options here. So for example, if I wanted all this color to be something different, I can simply select something like, let's say, purple, and let's click on OK. So you can see everything changes to purple. Now, this is a very small thing, of course, but this is something which seems fresh. And it kind of helps you work with STAAD Pro, which is generally a very tedious and boring software to work with. Not exactly boring, but it is a bit tedious. Let's talk about a few things which are available in the new option, which were not available earlier. So if I were to go inside the new option inside STAAD Pro Connect Edition, as well as inside the STAAD Pro V8i version, if I were to just click on the new project, you can see we have a few options to choose from. We have the type of structural model which we are trying to build. We have the file name, the location, and so on and so forth. If I just click on next, you can start wherever you want to and so on. This has changed a bit inside STAAD Pro Connect Edition. Inside Connect Edition, we again have the name and everything. We just have one more option right here at the bottom, which talks about the model seed file. Now, this is very helpful in case of big organizations where you're starting off with a template. So if you have a structure whose basic model is to be designed by someone, and then each and every load aspect has to be modeled or designed by another person, he can simply share that model as a template file, which different people can run or rather use to create their own analysis file based upon that same model. So instead of just sharing that file, this is sharing in the sense of a template creation. Now, of course, this will not come in handy for most of the people, but this is a neat option that is available inside STAAD Pro Connect Edition. One more option that is available inside Connect Edition is this job info. Now, this job info has been brought outside from the STAAD Pro V8i. So if I were to take you inside the V8i for now, and let's open any of the project, you can see the first option right here was the setup option. And inside the setup option, we had this job, we had the client, we had the job number, and so on and so forth. So you can see we have so many things right here. And this option, since it was not used all the time, it has been brought out. So this whole setup and job thing has been brought out of the programming or the designing or the modeling interface to the backend, where it is rarely used. So now we have this job name, client, and so on and so forth on the backend, and nothing is available inside. So those are the changes with respect to the new tab. Now inside the open tab also we have a few many changes. So if I were to take you back to the V8i and let's close this up, you can see we are able to see the recent file. So if I just hover over any of the structures, you can see we'll be able to see the model itself, we'll be able to see where it is located, and that's it. We're not able to see any other information. We are not able to jump directly to that folder or do anything for that matter with it. Also, the recent file list is a lot limited. If I were to try to open any other project, I'll have to go through this open project, search around for my STAAD project, and then open it from there. However, inside STAAD Pro Connect Edition, this has been improved a lot. We have a lot many options to choose from. We can have a lot many details to look at. So we have the file name, we have where the file is located. We can even jump directly to that folder where this file is created. So you can see we jump directly to that folder. We can pin this project at the top. So you can see one of my projects is pinned. And even though I keep creating new structures, this pinned project will stay at the top. So if I were to try and pin anything else, for example, this demo project, now this comes under the pin section. So you can see this is my pin section and these are my other options. So this was from today and this was from the older days. So you can do this pinning thing. Now this is again very much similar to the Excel file system which we have. So if I were to go inside file and go inside open, you can see we have the pin option right here. So I can just pin this up. So now this will not move. So the design philosophy again, as we said, is very much similar or rather inspired by the latest versions of Microsoft as well. Now let's look at the graphical user interface from a different perspective, which is with respect to how we work with the project itself. Now we have seen how the workflow of the entire modeling and the analysis in the design processes. And if you do remember from my previous videos, the model creation and the analysis moves from top to bottom. So we go with the setup, we go through the geometry, we go through the general tabs, then we go through the analysis and print, and so on and so forth. Now, each of these options, of course, has different submenu options. So if I were to just look at the different options, you'll be able to see what those options are. So for example, inside setup, we just have the job, which is now brought outside. Inside the geometry, we had different options. Inside the general, we had the property, the specifications, the support, loads, and so on and so forth. Then we had the analysis, print commands, and then we had the design menu. Now, instead of moving from top to bottom, we are now moving from left to right inside STAAD Pro Connect Edition. So now we are moving from left to right. So everything remains the same. We are now just moving from left to right. And this is a bit more intuitive because this is what we see right away. Now inside STAAD Pro V8i version, we had these different options at the top, which are now brought inside this workflow tab. So if I were to just hover over to this workflow and just able to pin it, so by default, you'll be able to see it as pinned. Now, since we won't be working with it all the time, we'll be working with analytical modeling most of the time, sometimes with post-processing, and rarely with the other options, you can just have it pinned or rather auto-hidden. This way, it does not take up too much of space. And if you do want to use it, you can simply hover your mouse over this workflow option and this will pop up and you can use it. So this is another great feature of STAAD Pro Connect where you're getting a lot of space to work with. One more thing, inside workflow, you can see I have a lot less options. This is because you have the ability to switch off some options which you do not use frequently. So if I were to just get out of it, just close this out. And if I were to go inside this configure option, go inside this workflow area, you can see we have a lot many options to choose from. In fact, let's go inside V8i also. You can see we have the building planner, the piping, the bridge deck, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot many options which we rarely use. You now have the option of switching them off. So now I'm just working with the foundation design and the advanced concrete design. In fact, we do work with advanced concrete design most of the time. So I can even switch that off and just click on OK. That way, if I were to now jump to my demo project, you can see inside the workflow area, we just have limited options. We just have the analytical modeling, the physical modeling, the post-processing, and the advanced concrete design. So it's much cleaner. It's much easier to use it this way. Now, finally, before we go ahead, the options at the top, this menu option is kind of linked with the options at the bottom. So you can see for some options, this menu bar or this ribbon changes. For example, if I just jump to loading, you can see this changes. If I jump to geometry, you can see it change. If I jump to design, you can see it change. So there are going to be links between the two. For example, My geometry tab is linked with my geometry tab right here. My properties tab, if I were to just click on properties, you can see it is linked with the specifications tab. Material again is linked with the specification tab, and specification of course is linked with the specification tab. And finally support is also linked with the specification tab. So these 4 options right here are linked with the specification tab. Next up, we have the loading, which is of course linked with the loading tab. Analysis and design both are linked with the analysis and design tab. Now that brings away the view option, the select option, and the utilities, which are of course not linked with anything directly, but those are things which you use. So for example, if I were inside geometry and if I wanted to view it some other way, quite naturally, I'll try to find out where my view options is and I'll jump to the view section and view it. Now, if I were inside the properties tab, I want to see everything with related to property. Now, of course, everything is available on the right by default, and this is where you'll be using it most of the time, this data area. But it's handy to know that there are options like prismatic, plate thickness, nodes, beams, etc. The support arrangement and everything right here built for you. So if you do not find anything here or this seems outdated to you, you can simply jump over to it. So for example, if I'm inside supports, again, you can see it is linked to the specification. I can simply hit on this fixed support, create a support, rather than going inside the support tab and then clicking on this fixed option. So there are many ways of doing the same thing, but as you see, this seems a bit more cleaner. So that was all about the graphical user interface differences. Let's head over to the usability part, the quick access part, how and where STAAD Pro Connect has improved itself over STAAD Pro V8i. Now, if I were to go back inside STAAD Pro V8i and look at the whole interface, although this seems a bit outdated, this was very helpful in one way. For example, wherever I am inside my structure, if I wanted to have a quick change of the view, it's as simple as going to these options right here. It was so easy to use. Even if I'm inside the general tab, the support tab, or wherever, this was so easy to use. Similarly, on the left side, we had these options of the cursors, which was so handy to use. So all I had to do was simply just go to the front view, go to the left view, hit on the beam cursor, hit on the column cursor, and it's always there, irrespective of which tab I'm at. Now, yes, this was helpful, but this kind of defeats the entire purpose of making the system more usable rather than just making it hard-coded right here. So everything, instead of being hard-coded, should be flexible so that I'm not wasting the space when I don't need it. So for example, if I'm just working with supports, I do not all the time need all these options. Similarly, I do not need to see all these options. And this is where STAAD Pro Connect has done a good job. Now, such options are not directly available inside STAAD Pro Connect edition, so you cannot see the options of, say, view directly, but there are 3 places where you can do that. The first option is this quick access menu right at the top, which if you can see it, this option right at the top. Now, this quick access menu gives you the ability to place icons right here, which you can save or use easily. So for example, you can see I have placed my node cursor as well as my beam cursor right at the top. So whichever tab I'm on, this quick access menu does not change. I can quickly jump to the beam cursor. I can quickly jump to the node cursor. It makes it so easy. Now, in order to add anything to this quick access menu, all you have to do is just click on this drop down, go to more commands, and right here you'll find all the commands for all the tabs. So for example, if I wanted to have anything to do with, say, the select tab, and if I wanted to place, say, my plate cursor also right there, I'll just try to find my plate cursor. There it is. I'll just move it to the right. And just like that, it is moved to the right. Now, this plate cursor, if I wanted to bring it near the node cursor, I'll just use these arrows to move it up. So you can see it is moving up. And with this done, I'll just click on OK. And on the top, you can see my plate cursor is right there. So now I can select my plates as well. So it's as easy as using these options. So you can see I can quickly switch between these 3. Now there is another option which you can use, and this is primarily used for the most commonly used commands, which you do not want to keep it right over here, but you do want to use it most of the time. That is by simply hitting on the space key. If I just hit on the space key, you can see some of the options open. Now this again has 2 parts to it. We have the top, which is the command groups. This consists of groups of commands. For example, this is the selection group. If I just click on it, you can see all the options related to the selection. I'll just hit on space again. We similarly have the labels command, we have the loading group, we have the geometric group. So you can see we have a lot many options available right here just by hitting a space key. Now, if I just hit the space key again, the top portion of it, that is the command groups, is not changeable. So this is kind of fixed. However, at the bottom, you can add more commands if you like to. So this is very much similar to the commands which we have right up here. So if I were to just simply click on this option of customizing my quick commands, if I just click on it, you can see a menu similar to what we saw pop up. And inside this window, you can again bring things to the right. So for example, I have placed my node cursor here, beam cursor here, translational repeat option here. So for example, if I just do not need these node cursor and beam cursor right here, I can just select this, move it to the left, that is move it away. And if I wanted to add something else, for example, if I'll just go to the select and let's select the option of finding members by missing property, I'll just select this and move it to the right. Now it is available inside my quick commands pop-up. So if I just click on OK, and now if I were to hit space, you can see that option is available right here. So this is another way of using the quick access menu. Last but not the least, we have one special option which is dedicated to this view tab. Now, we'll be using the view tab very, very often. We'll be going through the isometric views, the front view, the left view, the top view, the whole structure view, and so on and so forth. So STAAD Pro Connect has taken the pain of creating a specialized quick access menu just for the view tab. If you hit Shift and the right key or the right mouse button, you can see a window pop up. I'll do that again. I'll hold on to Shift and right click, and you can see all the options which are available right here at the top are now available right here at the bottom itself. So we have the display hole structure, we have the zooming options, and we have the isometric views. We have the zoom window as well, and we have the pan and so on. So all these options have been given as a quick access. Now, of course, you cannot change this because this is kind of built into the structure, but you can see how useful this is. So instead of having this lying around for you everywhere, this is simply a shift and a right mouse click away. So that was all about the shortcuts option or the usability part of it, how easy it is to use STAAD Pro Connect Edition, even though those options are not hard-coded on your screen. Let's move on to the next comparison mode, which is going to be the different modules that have been added in the STAAD Pro Connect Edition. Now, inside STAAD Pro Connect Edition, there have been a lot of changes, a lot of positive changes. And the most important ones are inside the load command. If I were to take you inside loading right now, and in fact, let's open the STAAD Pro V8i as well. Let's go to the isometric view. Let's go to the general and let's go to the load and definition. So I'll take you through the loads and let's look at what are the major changes. The first and the most important change which has happened is going to be with respect to the seismic loads. Right here, if I were to just simply select this seismic definition and just click on add, or rather let's just double click on this seismic parameters, you can see we have the type of Indian code defined or to be selected right here. And this was updated to the older version of IS 1893. Of course, this change has been brought into STAAD Pro Connect Edition. So this has been updated to the latest version. And with this latest version comes a lot many changes. For example, if I just click on generate right now to have a check of the different options, you can see we have the choices of the zones. So we have the cities as well. Now this city list has been improved upon quite extensively based upon the different updates which have come in the code itself. So this is one change. And in fact, I'll take you to this option simultaneously. If I were to go inside definitions and let's click on this part as well, let's click on generate. So you can see right now we have a lot many cities right here with respect to the IS 1893. And this is the 2016 version, the latest update. Similarly, for the response reduction method, we have a lot fewer options. Now again, this was because the IS 1893 to 2002 version had a lot less cases. This has been, of course, improved here as well. So you can see there are a lot many cases. Similarly, for the importance of buildings, we have one more option available, which is going to be residential or commercial buildings, which has a factor of 1.2. This option was not in the earlier code and hence it was not in the STAAD Pro as well. Finally, the structure types, there were only 3 structure types. This has again been modified in the recent codes. We now have 5 structure types and all have been brought inside the STAAD Pro Connect Edition version. So that is one thing to do with the seismic loads. The second thing is that if I were to simply head over to the load case details and click on add right here, and if I were to try to select this loading type, Now you can see we have two versions of the Seismic. So we have the Seismic H, that stands for Seismic Horizontal, and the Seismic V, which stands for Seismic Vertical. So now you can differentiate between the Seismic Horizontal and the Seismic Vertical. Now the vertical cases come into play with respect to IS 1893. I'll put a snippet here just for you to see where the vertical seismic forces come into play. But this option gives us the flexibility to put it as a vertical seismic load so that it can be later used in the load combinations. This option, of course, was not available inside STAAD Pro V8i. So if I were to go inside the load case details, click on add, try to find out this loading type, you can see we only had one option for seismic, and this had to be used for all the three cases. So this was one module which has been added inside the loads. The second module which has been added inside this load itself is the wind load generator. So if I were to go inside STAAD Pro V8i, click on this wind definition and click on add. Let's just use the default option and let's try to add this. Right here you can see we have to select the type. So we had custom and then we had two more cases. And then we had just the case for ASC 7. So, or we could calculate the intensity and the height dependencies, but with respect to ASC code only and not with respect to the Indian Standard Code. This is now, however, a possibility. So if I were to go inside the STAAD Pro Connect edition now, go inside wind definition again, click on add. Right now you can see we have the option of selecting the code. So if I were to select the code of IS 875 part 3 2015 version and click on add, click on yes, you can see we have the type 1 wind added here. And if I were to click on add again, you can see we have the option of generating this intensity versus height values based upon the different parameters. So you can see we have the year of publication of the code, we have the type of structure, we have the heights and so on, the basic wind speeds and so on, the class of structure and everything to do with IS 875 for that matter. All these options are now built in so that you can work with it. Now, of course, not everything is predefined. For example, if I were to go inside this design wind pressure, these values have to be provided by you. So you'll have to calculate them and provide it, but it does help you out a lot. Inside the rectangular clad building, you can see we can provide the external pressure coefficients and the internal pressure coefficients if you wanted to. Now, it does give a few more loads than what is required, but you can see this makes it a bit easier to use. Now, with this said, I'll just get rid of this for now. With this said, we have one more option inside loading, which is the wind load generator. This is another advanced option. So if I just click on it, this helps you create not only the wind definition, but also the wind loads in one go. So you can just use this, click on generate, and it will create the wind load cases for you. Now, of course, yet again, you'll have to understand what each of the inputs mean. And also, you'll have to understand that some of the inputs are to be provided by you. For example, the topography factor has to be calculated by you manually and then put in. Additionally, the KD, KA, and KC factors, that is the wind directionality factor, the area averaging factor, and the combination factor have to be put in by you. But it does make life so much simpler. Earlier, you had to do everything on your own. Now you just have to work out a few options manually. So that was about the module on wind. The other module that has been added is the mass model generator. Now, if you have worked with a response spectrum analysis, that is the dynamic analysis of earthquakes, you must be knowing that you have to create a reference load definition. Now, inside the reference load definition, you have to create a reference load of type mass. So if I just double click on it, you can see we have a loading type of mass and I have to create that. And inside this loading type of mass, I have to create each of the load, which has been provided right here in the dead load and live load. And I have to provide it in all the three directions. So I have to provide it in the X direction, the Y direction, the Z direction. Again, the X direction, the Y direction, the Z direction, and so on and so forth. Now, this becomes so much tedious if my load cases increase. Right now, I just have three cases, or I have rather built three cases inside this demo project. I just have the dead load as a self-weight case and as a Y-range case. Similarly, I have the live load as a Y-range case. With just these three, you can see I already have 9 cases. Imagine putting in different cases for different load types, wall loads, self-weights, floor loads, staircase loads, plate loads, and so on and so forth. The longer this list becomes, the longer it takes to put in these values, because every time you'll have to go through each of these options and plug it here. Now, there was, of course, another option of doing it. You could simply copy these loads, paste it inside a software like Microsoft Word and just keep on changing this GX to GY, GZ, and then bring it back and paste it inside the command file. Or you could simply build a Python program to work your way around that. So you can do it programmatically as well, but it was a lengthier process nonetheless, and there were chances of making a mistake. Now it becomes so much easier with this option inside loading, which is called the mass model generator. It becomes so much easier. All you have to do is just click on it. This will take all the loads from the dead load and the live load. You will apply whatever necessary factors are there to apply. And you can just simply click on generate, and it will generate all the XYZ or all the XYZs for all the parts of all the loads inside this dead load container and the live load container. It makes life so much easier. I cannot stress upon that enough. It was such a headache. It was such a pain to do this. And every time any of your values got updated, got changed due to whatever reason, it became so much of a headache to find where the values were earlier and to replace them. So this is a huge plus STAAD Pro. Now the last module which has been updated, now of course there have been many other modules, but this one is a huge thing, which is the load combination creator. So you can now create your own templates for load combinations, and that is so exciting. It was so painful to do it manually using the STAAD editor file, going and changing things, bringing it back and pasting it around. Now it's so much easier to do with STAAD Pro Connect Edition. So let's go inside STAAD Pro V8i version first. Let's click on this load case detail and let's click on add for now. And if I go inside auto load combinations, you can see we have the option of selecting the load combination code. So we have the first option of code. For example, if I just select the Indian code, you can see we have the select load combination category. So you can select it for the general structures or steel, plastic, or whatever the case is. And you can click on generate to generate those cases and just add them. There are no options to create your own load cases. However, now if I go inside this load case detail, click on add, go inside this auto load combination, select the load combination code again. So let's select Indian standard code IS456. You can now select the load combination category as well. So if I just hit on this drop down, you can see we have the IS456, the IS800s, and so on. But at the bottom, you can see there are additional codes which have been created by me. So you can see we have the civil black box code, we have the service loads civil black box, we have some other combination. So these three options have been created by me, and it really changes the game. All you have to do is go inside this loading tab, jump over to this automatic combinations, hit on it, and just find out this automatic load combination option and the edit load combination. So these ones will be whatever you're seeing right now, the original ones. And if I were to just use the other option of edit auto load combinations, this is where all your databases for the combinations are. So if I'll just toggle this off and let's move down all the way to IS456, you can see this is the IS, if I just double click on it, you can see this is the IS456 or IS800 table. So we have all the load combinations specified here. So for the dead plus live plus wind, and so on. Now I can use this table to create another table. So if I were to just simply right click and click on copy, just click right here and click on paste again, you can see I've created a copy of this code. You can see at the bottom, I've created a copy of this code. If I just double click on it, you can see this is a copy. And let's close the other tables. So I'll just close this and close this. So now this is a copy. I can, of course, rename it. So if I just click on it, I can rename it to CBB demo. So now this is my custom file, and I can change the factors how much soever I want it to. Now, right now you cannot change it because everything is locked. You can unlock it by simply hitting this, of course, the lock button. If I just click on it, you can see everything is unlocked. Now I can change it to whatever. So if I just wanted to have the dead load and live load as 1, dead plus wind as 1, which is of course going to be the case in case of foundation design. So in the foundation design, again, I'll add a snippet if possible, where for the foundation design, we just use the dead load plus live load or the dead plus wind or the dead plus live plus earthquake cases in factor of 1 only and not with a factor of serviceability. You can do that so easily right here. And in fact, that is what I have done inside the service load CBB model. As you can see, we have the dead load, live load, dead plus live plus wind, dead plus live plus wind with a negative value. And again, the same for the seismic H's with a +1 and a -1 value. So it's so easy to do that. And if I were to now just get out of it, go inside this auto combinations for that matter, select on this IS code again, Now I have my CBB demo combination category created right here, which I can select and generate the loads. So this is a huge game changer. So that's all about the newer modules which have come inside STAAD Pro Connect edition, which really takes this software miles ahead of the race already. Last but not the least, let's talk about the functionality. Now, before we jump to the functionality part, if you're liking this video so far, please do not forget to hit that like button. It really helps with the motivation. Also, I do have a free ebook for you to download, which will take you through the necessary steps of starting your own structural consultancy firm. It's a free ebook. I would love for you to go through the book and have a good understanding as to what all tools and knowledge you need to acquire to become a good structural consultant. With that said, let's jump to the last option, which is the functionality. Now, again, functionality has been broken down into two subparts. There is one main feature update which has come inside STAAD Pro, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And this is the inclusion of the RCDC software inside STAAD Pro. So RCDC has been acquired by STAAD Pro. RCDC is a software which is specifically for the reinforced concrete design of beams, columns, slabs, foundations, and so on and so forth. It makes the design and detailing so much easier. And it used to be a standalone software, which kind of worked in parallel with STAAD Pro. Now, people use it in parallel to ETABS as well, but we are now focusing on STAAD Pro, so let's talk about STAAD Pro. Bentley has now acquired that software, and now it is inside the family of STAAD Pro itself. So now it is called the Advanced Concrete Design Software, or the STAAD RCDC. So if I were to go inside the workflow area and move all the way down to where it says Advanced Concrete Design, and if you just click on it, this opens the STAAD RCDC Connect, or the Advanced Concrete Design. Now this is directly connected with the STAAD Pro software. So you can use this software to create the pile caps, the footings, the columns and beams, the beams itself, the slabs at different levels, and so on. This is such a huge thing. Earlier, there used to be something called the RC Designer. So if I were to go right here, you can see we had the concrete design tab right here, which used to do the concrete design for you. Now, I do not want to pick up on the software itself, but it was not a very clean software. It did not have a lot of functionality. It did not have the ductile design capabilities to the level what RCDC offers you. It did not have the detailing facilities or the properties which RCDC gives you. RCDC is such a huge time saver when it comes to creating industry standard detailed drawings in a matter of minutes. All you have to do is just put in a few inputs and there you go. Now, of course, it's not as easy as that, but you get the gist. You do not have to create everything by hand. Earlier, we used to find out the concrete design, or we used to find out the reinforcement areas for each column, and then we had to go through AutoCAD, do the drafting ourselves. That whole drafting thing has been simplified to the tune of almost like an automation inside RCDC. And now it's a part of Bentley, so it's much easier to use. Just this feature alone has taken STAAD Pro Connect out of this world. Last but not the least, we have the solver engine inside STAAD Pro, which has been upgraded by a huge level. Now, I can show that to you by a very simple experiment, by simply running a kind of complex structure, not exactly complex, but it's a bit heavy because it has a lot of plates going on right here. So if I were to just select this plate model and select all these, you can see there are a lot of plates here. And if I were to just zoom in, you can see I've just measured it very small. So there are a lot many plates here. And we have the dead load, the live load, the dynamic analysis, we have the zones, we have the mass going on, and so on and so forth. Now I've created this model, or a very identical model, inside the STAAD Pro Connect edition as well. The only things that have changed are the Seismic code updates. If I were to run these two simultaneously, let's see how it goes. So if I'll just go inside Analyze and just click on the Run Analysis right here, and I'll just wait for it. Simultaneously, I'll go inside the Run Analysis and run this analysis as well. And I'll wait for the results to compile. So you can see STAAD Pro Connect has already done it in 33 seconds. Let's go inside STAAD Pro V8i and let's see where it is. So this is already doing a lot of heavy lifting. My laptop is just full out on the fan. It is trying to cool itself because there are a lot of things going on. So I started V8i analysis before the STAAD Pro Connect edition. However, you can see it is taking a lot of time already.
A few moments later.
So finally, we can hope that this process will end. So you can see it started at 6 minutes and it has already been 15 minutes. So I think it is about to end. Let's wait and watch.
One eternity later.
So now I think it is going to stop. I really hope it does. I've been waiting for almost 13-14 minutes now. And finally it is done. So it took just 9-16 seconds as compared to 33 seconds by STAAD Pro Connect edition. And mind you, these were exactly the same models. I did not change anything except, as I said, the seismic definitions. This one was running at 2002 version of IS 1893. The other one was running at the latest version, which was 2016 version. So this is about 27-28 times slower than STAAD Pro Connect edition, or rather STAAD Connect edition is almost 27-28 times faster than this. So you can imagine the performance boost that has come with the recent solver that is inside STAAD Pro Connect edition. So those were the major differences between STAAD Pro Connect edition and the STAAD Pro V8i version with respect to the concrete design of structures. I really hope that it made sense. Now, as I said, this was just with respect to the reinforced concrete structures. If you have any other features which I have missed and which were not covered in this video, please do not hesitate to put them in the comments below. I would really love to learn about them as well. If you like this video, please do not forget to hit that like button. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm, as well as it really helps with the motivation of creating more videos. Finally, if you want to see any videos in general, just post a request down in the comment section and I'll try and make a video on it very soon. That's it from my side. I'll see you on the next one.